My goal is to like retire in Korea and become like a reality show commentator. I think that would be in my 40s or something. That's my final form.
Hello, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That is Daniel. Welcome to the studio. A human being who is a New York Times bestselling author, nominated for a couple Grammys, fourth album to discuss. A very special human being. Please say hello to Michelle, also known as Japanese Breakfast.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
You're very special. But first, I got to acknowledge your shoes.
Oh, yeah.
You look like a blinged out pilgrim, and I love it.
Thank you.
Now, it's giving fabulous Mayflower.
Thank you. I feel like I could have chosen a better sock, but we'll just scoot these down.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You were living in Korea for a while?
I was all of last year for one full year.
When did you come back?
I came back on Christmas Eve. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was great. I did not want to leave.
So what forced you to come back?
I mean, I wanted to come back and promote this record and put on the live show. But I loved living there and had such a great time. So it's hard to come back in some ways.
Did you reconnect with a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, it was really beautiful. So I went to start writing my second book, which is about living abroad for the year and studying the language. So I never learned how to speak Korean. And my last remaining relative is my mother's older sister, who doesn't speak any English. And I feel like in a way to get close to my mom who passed away, I really want to be able to talk to her older sister and get to learn about my mom. And also I think just spend time in the city that my mom grew up in. And so, yeah, I was over there documenting that experience. And it was really beautiful because from January to December, I could see us starting to have deeper conversations and watch my language improve and get to learn more about her and their relationship and about my mom when she was younger. So that was really special.
On so many different levels, very special.
Yeah.
The truth is, in order to communicate with somebody fully, you need to know their language.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially spending the year there and learning so much about just the etiquette and the formality and the different ways that people can communicate with each other, it made me realize how much of my mother's personality was culturally informed in ways that I don't think I knew when I was growing up. Like, my mom was a very private person and she could be somewhat withholding, and that I think is very just culturally important. For instance, the friends that I made there, sometimes it would there's a casual tense and a formal tense. And I didn't realize how long you can spend in formal tense. Even if you've been friends with someone and are hanging out all the time, it took 4 months for me to start to switch from formal language to casual language.
Who makes the first move, though?
So it has to be the older person.
Really?
Only the older person can bring it up. Hey, should we speak casually now?
Wow.
So yeah, learning about rules like that made me really understand how much of that is ingrained into people's personalities, and maybe some of the things that felt so different from me growing up with my mom was informed by that.
Do you realize what elements of that is actually ingrained in you through her?
Totally. So there's this other thing called nunchi, which is the art of reading the room and kind of anticipating someone's needs or someone's feelings without them having to say anything. Earlier, one of my managers we stole a pack of gum from the green room, and she was like, you'd been wanting gum this week, so I snuck it into your bag. That's nunchi. This clocking something that someone wants before they can ask for it. And that's very much how I was raised, I think, to love people around me, both my friends and my family, and that came from my mom. And it was wild going to Korea because everyone has it to some degree. They're just way more attuned to people's feelings and can kind of read the room, for better or for worse. Sometimes it feels kind of like a panopticon where you can't escape everyone knowing how you feel already. But for the most part, it's really comforting.
That's interesting. This idea that you can't escape everybody knowing how you feel. How does that play? Do you end up writing parts of this album in Korea?
I actually wrote it all before I left, but I did. I left in December, around Christmas Eve, to go to Korea. But before that, I recorded the album here in LA. And
so it's been sitting for a minute.
Yeah. I actually did that for Jubilee too. It was supposed to come out during the pandemic and we postponed it for a year. And it made me feel more confident in the record, actually, having a year off from it. I think there's so much that goes into a record beyond recording it. There's all of the visuals, but also just the general narrative that you want to put forward and the live show. So having a year to kind of mull that over and really live within the record and return to it, I found to be really helpful. And I think part of that too comes from writing a book where so much of that process too, you have to have this ingrained perspective because your editor has it. You can't work on it in large chunks of time. So I actually kind of like working that way.
I want to know how much of like becoming an author influences how you end up writing music or just approaching it. But your story as a whole is like incredibly unique, and the success you've experienced is so deeply and beyond well deserved. You've been making music for a very long time, but your life does take a massive turn. And you mentioned the loss of your mom. There's no way she's not around every single day as you exist on this journey. And even like down to all of this taking off, like down to your first album, like she's involved in all of it, no?
Yeah, it really feels that way. It was really special. I mean, when the first record, Psychopomp, came out in 2016, it's her photo on the cover. And I remember I would go play, a show to 100 people in Germany for the first time and seeing this huge poster of just my mom outside the club kind of waiting for me. Or when we played in Korea and all of the kids carrying out that square vinyl out into the streets of Korea. So yeah, it felt very serendipitous that the album that I thought was going to be my sort of swan song was the album that kind of made me reconsider pursuing music again. And it was so vulnerable and so much about her. It felt like she's really looked out for me these past. I'm not a spiritual person by any means, but it does feel that way. Yeah.
Explain the reason why you thought that album was going to be your last.
I was 25 years old and I had played in bands for, a long time already. And my mom got cancer and died 6 months after that diagnosis. And I had moved to Eugene to be her caretaker. And when I left, I just realized, it's time to be a grown up. So I got a 9-to-5 job. And before I got that job, I had recorded this record. And then while I was working that job, I was kind of finishing up mixing it and was just like, I'm going to put it out on a small indie label. My friend's label didn't even want to put it out. And then there was a small label outside of Frostburg, Maryland that put it out, and we got some write-ups on it. And then that, of course, was the record that started gaining some traction. And it turned out that was, I never worked a job after that happened. Yeah.
I mean, can you just take a second and think about the fact that, you were about to not do something and then you end up doing it? And,
Totally.
You don't just do it.
Yeah.
You fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a wild time. I was working a pretty soulless job at the time. And I actually went in, I'd been there for 9 months. I was hoping to get a raise, and then they were just like, you're actually doing a really bad job. And I was so blindsided because I was like, what do you mean? I work from 8 to 8. I sit here and eat my sweet green at the table like everybody else. Why am I not getting raised? And I think the boss felt so bad for me that he was like, if you want to take a severance and go, we'll do that. And he misspoke and gave me a 2-month severance. I'd only been there for 9 months. I learned later that people who had been there for years did not get that. And so I was like, let me think about it. I took my paid Christmas leave and then I took the severance and I was like, this is enough money for me to figure out if this music thing is going to work out. I went to South by Southwest. I played 7 showcases or something. I got signed. I got a booking agent. I got all the stuff that you're hopefully hoping to get at South by Southwest. And then I never worked a day job again. So, yeah, it's pretty surreal. I felt kind of like a late bloomer in some ways, but I also feel like it really set me up for taking on all the stuff that comes with this lifestyle.
That you had been working at this for a very long time.
Yeah.
Plus, you took on life mountains
Yeah.
that are very real and give you experiences that have funneled its way into this art that have like allowed for mutual understanding between you and a normal person, somebody who listens, in ways that like not everybody can, because your experiences are 100% unique to you. Like everything line, it's wild.
Thank you so much.
No, it's really, I mean, you should be very proud.
Oh, thanks. I feel very proud in this moment. So I felt kind of like a small fry coming here. So I'm very honored that you took the time to learn about me.
That's crazy. Can we talk about Jubilee though?
Yeah.
One of the big takeaways that you applied to this project is letting it sit for a year. Is there anything else that you learned during the making of that, which by the way gets nominated for 2 Grammys?
Yeah.
That you still find yourself applying today?
I guess just trusting your artistic voice of just all of the weird things that you're attracted to, and understanding that that's what makes you who you are. And yeah, I just wanted to lean into the things that I liked and thought were interesting, and trusting that meter. I think it's the only thing that I have to offer in some ways. And from all the records and the book that I wrote, I feel like it's always just boils down to some kind of inner voice saying this is good or this is bad.
There is a distinct difference though between For Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women and Jubilee and Soft Sounds from Another Planet. Like this album is, it's very much inspired by like deep pieces of literature, correct?
Yeah, I think I'm at a place in my life where melancholy feels like the main emotion, you know? I think because of my age, there is this anticipatory grief I feel in the passage of time. And I guess a lot of great, deep literary works are also focused on that idea.
Explain that to me. So like, you grieve time that hasn't, time is always passing.
I guess I grieve unlived lives that I know I'll never have. So it's like being on a train and passing some pastoral village that you know you'll never visit. And it's not devastating, but there is a melancholic feeling of, I probably at this point in my life will never move to Spain and become a sommelier, you know? I don't really want to do that. And then the same breath of living in Korea, I had this moment where I could see a whole life there of just studying the language and living a quiet life. But then that would mean no longer living this life that I have and really love as a musician in the US. So yeah, I think there's just a sadness that I experience all the time of things that are passing by that there's just not enough time in this world to do everything that you want to do. And it's a melancholic feeling.
So then understanding that, how do you maximize the time that you have?
I mean, for a long time, it was just being so devoted to my work. And I think this record made me sort of realize, or this time in my life made me realize that I need to find some kind of balance of doing this work that I love so much, and also having a personal life and friendships and closeness with family, that kind of thing.
And you end up getting married.
Yeah.
But primarily, again, correct me if I'm wrong, due to the importance that your mom loved the idea of marriage.
Yeah, so my husband of 10 years is in the band. He's a guitar player.
Interesting.
And yeah, we'd been dating for like a year and a half when my mom got sick. And when we found out her cancer was terminal and she was sort of on her deathbed, I said, if you think that this is something that we would do in the next 5 years and we don't just do it now, I'll never forgive you. And he said, okay. And then we threw together a wedding in 3 weeks in my parents' backyard, and my mom was there, and she passed away 2 weeks later. So I'm her only child. I was her only child. And, you know, it was just such a sad time, like of 6 months watching her health deteriorate. And then right when we found out her cancer was terminal, we went to Korea to, choose life and have this really great time. And she got so sick and was just in the hospital for 3 weeks. It was such a dark time for my family. And I just wanted something to look forward to, like something good. And instead of talking about milligrams of painkillers and different symptoms, we could talk about Chiavari chairs and macaroons and what color the napkins were going to be. And it was this really beautiful distraction for my family for 3 weeks. And I feel so lucky that she got to be there because I felt so alone in that experience. But after the book came out, I learned so many people have that same impulse to try to do something like that, try to pull it off for the family. And not all of those parents make it. So I felt really, really lucky that she kind of held out for that. And she clearly really held out for it because she passed very, very shortly after.
In the collection of all those moments leading up to that, during, you do realize that that's the person you want to be with regardless for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I was like, we don't even have to sign the thing. We'll just get divorced if it doesn't work out. It would be kind of funny to be 25-year-old divorcees and be like, yeah, my first husband. But yeah, it was just meant to be, Peter was like, it's not, we're going to do the whole thing. And 10 years later, we're still married and very happy.
Yeah.
I had a meltdown to him yesterday, but we're still married and things are going good.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's part of it.
But you also really get to understand the true character behind a human being when going through those things together.
Yeah,
like,
and
it's the truest test of
who
someone is.
Totally. That was a big part of it. And I was really glad that we were together because my family was able to really sort of invite him into all the really heavy stuff that came afterwards. And there was this it really does unlock a different part of your relationship and level of trust, I think, getting married.
How does writing a book make you a better musician?
I don't know. I mean, I think for this, this is the first time I've written an album after writing a book. And I think, if anything, it just validated my pen. It made me feel really confident in my writing lyrically that I had taken on that kind of big project. I think both mediums kind of come from the same place of typically something ordinary or fairly mundane part of the human experience and then expanding upon that to find what's profound. I think if anything, it kind of hones that meter.
Explain, when you can expand on something, but like at what point do you realize it is profound? Like, everything you expand on may not be profound, but does that make it not good?
Totally. I think that perspective is a huge part of that. If you can write something and put it away and continue to return to it over and over again and still have that feeling, that's a good sign that maybe you've found something, if it stands the test of time.
This album, for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women, it's not just exclusively for those people, right? Because I listened to it and I enjoyed it.
You're a brunette.
Touche.
You don't think you have some melancholy?
Yeah, definitely.
A sad woman too.
Yeah, I'm steeped in it, dude. I am very much melancholic. God, it's so real. Yeah, it's so, but to grieve time yet to be spent is just a distraction from being present in the time you have.
Sure.
But it's hard.
Yeah, I think it's a part of the human condition. But I think it's a really reflective album and some sad tunes.
I was going to say, can we talk about the intrusive thoughts you have that inspired Picture Window?
Oh, yeah. I've been like this since I was a young kid where I just assumed the worst of everything. I think that's also kind of melancholy or just anxiety. But I always have been a very nervous person, and Picture Window is about being married to someone who has no anxiety. And every time he's gone or takes half an hour to park the car or run an errand, I just assume he's dead. Or if he's hanging out on a balcony, or anyone really, I just assume that people are going to die all the time. And yeah, I think that especially after losing my mom and friends and family, the chorus is, but all of my ghosts are real, is kind of validating where that anxiety
Totally
comes from. But yeah, that song is about that dynamic of being in a relationship where one person is so afraid all of the time and one person is just ready to go, and trying to explain where those feelings come from.
Is there any part of you that's grateful for your anxiety, or
No.
do you wish it to be managed?
I don't know. I guess in some ways, I think anxiety can make you a really hard worker. I'm so anxious about I'm so anxious about everything that it makes me prepare a lot, and it has instilled a great sense of rigor into my being, and I think that has taken me quite far, and maybe saved me from some bad situations. But I don't love it.
Did you have anxiety problems before your mom got sick?
Definitely, yeah. I've always been a very anxious person.
Did they get worse throughout it all?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just getting older, but it definitely got, because I was so close to death, I realized how.
Yeah, it works.
Even just I never really had a lot of anxiety about flying, and strangely after my mom died, I'm very nervous about flying and stuff.
I totally understand that. I lost my best friend, and my parents are dealing with cancer right now. So it's like it's like loss and grief is very weird, and like the impacts. Some days you think you've managed it and understood it, and then other days it like comes in a whole new form.
I think too, when you've experienced loss, the world opens up to you and everyone shares their loss and grief with you too. And then suddenly you became very aware of how much grief there is and how much loss there is in the world. And it just feels around every corner, I know someone who's had sorry, this is so bleak, but, just like people getting cast away by a wave on vacation, or, getting in car accidents, or getting hit from a falling brick, it's just everywhere. And so, yeah, I wish I didn't have this feeling, but.
Well, because it's weird, like the overwhelming realization that grief is everywhere, it drives more anxiety, because like that's the understanding you don't want necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't want to have this realization that like many forms of what I've just gone through. Everyone's going through it, and it can happen again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the negative side, but then there's the positive side that I guess makes you feel less alone. And hopefully encourages you to seize the day.
How'd it work out for you?
It's a little bit of both,
Right? You definitely seized a few days.
I definitely feel like I mean, it definitely pushed me to seize the day in many ways. I think it made me, in some ways, it made me a very, very hard worker. I don't think I was this tenacious or rigorous of a person before that happened.
I think your mom pushes you every day.
Totally.
Yeah. This album, what song starts it?
The first song is a song called Here Is Someone.
Is that the first song you made for it?
I don't think so. I don't know it came pretty early though, I think.
Did you put any parameters around yourself while making this?
A big one was, there were two. One was after making an album about joy, I wanted it to have a darker palette. And I originally wanted to make a creepy album. And I also, because Jubilee had such a large arrangement, there were so many strings and horns, there wasn't much space for me as a guitar player, so I knew I really wanted to have a very guitar-focused album. So those were the two main parameters, is that it was going to be very guitar-focused. I wanted to play guitar again when we toured this record, and that it was going to have a darker palette.
Where'd the guitar go before?
I would start a lot of the songs on synths or other instrumentation. I was working with a lot of soft synths on Jubilee, so I would write horn arrangements or string arrangements, and that would be or synth parts. And then there wasn't really a rhythm guitar wasn't really doing anything in the grand scheme of that. So a lot of times I was just fronting as a singer, which was fun sometimes, but also a tough adjustment for me sometimes.
So, do you feel safety with the guitar?
I do.
Yeah.
It's fun. I think it felt like a return to some of my earlier records, and I mean, it's just been really fun. This album is challenging to play, and I really enjoy that.
What's the hardest part about it?
the guitar parts are very, very difficult. I made the record with Blake Mills, who's just a monster of a guitar player,
kidding?
and learning. I don't know, like he's like allergic to the one, and and so it's just hard doing like off beats and finger picking and switching finger picking styles and playing different chords that I'm not used to. And yeah, I mean, it was a tough record to relearn how to play, and he pushed me in a lot of ways, and it's been really fun to get to bring that to the live show.
I mean, what was it about his credits that even attracted you to begin with? I mean, he's worked with everybody from like Bob Dylan to John Legend. Like, he's real deal.
I think I was attracted to, I mean, he's such a singular guitar player, and I think knowing that I wanted to make a record that was so guitar focused, I wanted someone that was so good at the guitar, at the helm, and wanted to learn from someone like that. But he also, I think he just has a really interesting perspective as a producer, and he's someone that cares very deeply, and I wanted to work with someone like that.
What is it you like about a long musical outro? Because some of these songs have like almost a minute of just music at the end.
Yeah, I guess I always think of that Wilco song, at least that's what you said, which has a really long guitar solo that's so emotive and essentially says everything that words can't. And I guess I've just always been attracted to that that sort of setup.
Too,
yeah. I think that it just offers a new voice that's exciting to me.
Mega Circuit, second single from this whole era. It's pretty broad, but it's very much about incels and toxic masculinity. But it's also very catchy.
Thank you.
Very poppy. Can we unpack the theme and the lyrics, though, please?
Yeah, I think I had passed a sign for a mega circuit, like for an ATV track, and just found that to be really evocative.
Toxically masculine.
I guess, I think I was just thinking about a group of young men that feel politically isolated and wanting to, I guess, feel some compassion to what led them astray and what was so enticing about it, I guess, where they were lured to. I think a lot of this record is so much about temptation and missteps and being tempted by something and then ruining those consequences. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important group for our generation. I think that I think a lot of young men feel pushed out and misunderstood, and instead of being chastised for those things, they want to run to the arms of a group that will embrace them as they are. And I think that's something that we really have to reckon with and learn how to maybe have a different type of conversation to amend that desire.
I agree.
Yeah.
You must show grace to rehabilitate.
Yeah.
Interesting topic to write a song about. But in 2025,
yeah.
and back then, because this is years ago now when you wrote that song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that we all are aware of that group of people. And I think they're very scary, but also I feel a sadness for them and a desire to figure out ways in which we can, I don't know, no longer isolate that group and figure out how to, I don't know. I mean, clearly what's happening is not working.
Totally. Grace, empathy, conversation, rehabilitation, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Finding common ground.
So yeah, I liked the idea of writing a song about someone who wanted almost physically to bring that person close to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned ATVs and Little Girl also.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, growing up, I grew up kind of in the country in Eugene, Oregon, like outside of town. And my dad had an ATV. And I think it just, I don't know. There's like some grit when you think about ATVs, and it weirdly became a part of this landscape. And I liked the idea of the songs almost being connected in that, and like that Robert Altman movie Shortcuts that's based on that Raymond Carver book of short stories. I like the idea of it not being like Crash in the way that all these stories are kind of related, but they're being sort of pieces of the landscape in different songs that winked to maybe the hotel room in Little Girl looking out on the mega circuit of Mega Circuit. So yeah, there are a couple of things like that in the album.
Lita is about your dad, correct? And
Yeah.
healing
It's
that
about
relationship?
that song is about a long distance phone call that I had with my father when he was in Crete. And actually, my father had been contacted by the New York Times when the book came out. I had sent my dad a copy of the book, and as far as I knew, he hadn't read it. But then when the New York Times wanted to reach out for his point of view on the book, I was kind of blindsided when that came out as a story. And then a couple years later, I was interviewed by them again, and they said that they wanted to reach out to him for comment, and I hadn't spoken to him in a few years. And I just thought, why don't you just cut this weird cord and give him a call directly, because he's not a malicious man, and I wanted to just talk to him directly. And after years of not speaking, the first thing he said is tell me everything. And it was such a sweet moment that kind of reminded me of what, the bonds of family and how so much time can pass and mistakes can happen, and you can still have this connection. And yeah, that song is about that phone call.
What drove you guys apart to begin with?
I think it was just, it's very normal for people's grief to not always be in step with each other. And I think that was hard for us.
It's understandable. Well, it's hard. That is to write this song. Do you share it with him?
I haven't. I mean, it exists. I don't know if he's listened to it, but yeah, I haven't shared it with him.
Could we talk about Magic Mountain?
Yeah.
It is a closing track on this album, in part inspired by a Thomas Mann book, correct?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. It's of the same name. Really not familiar with the book at all.
Yeah.
You're far more intelligent than I could ever be. But what is it like pulling from a book and then turning that into a record? And then also, how did this book even make its way back into your life or find its way there?
Yeah, so this is my husband's favorite novel, and we were going to tour in Switzerland. So the novel is about a man who goes to visit his cousin at a sanatorium in Switzerland and ends up staying for 7 years.
Because of tuberculosis.
Yeah. So that's where people used to go to convalesce in the Swiss air. And I thought it would be really great to read while we were touring through Switzerland, and then got really sick and was reading this book, and there was a strange connection of real and unreal. And I was so moved by it, and I loved it so much. And then I thought, well, why don't I just do like a Kate Bush and just write a synopsis song in the same way that she did for Wuthering Heights. And then when I was recording the record, I learned that Blonde Redhead had done the exact same thing. And so I had to change the lyrics because, there are all these references to the novel. And it ended up being a very personal song about, I think in some ways, you lose track of time in the same way that Hans Castorp loses track of time at the sanatorium. That's how tour feels sometimes. You're so removed from all your friends and family's lives, and you're off doing this thing, and then all of a sudden it's 7 years, and everyone's changed, and you don't even know how to acclimate to real life. And yeah, I think that it became a very personal song about trying to see a life where I learn how to reacclimate to life after touring, and about that experience.
It's a very real problem that people face, because it's like, people don't stop living.
Yeah.
Like, the world kind of keeps moving. And
Totally. People die, people get married, people have babies, and you're just, off playing your set.
Playing the same set that you played God knows how many times.
Yeah.
I mean, you do tour a lot.
Yeah.
You toured a lot post Jubilee.
Yeah.
I mean, are you grateful for the amount that you toured?
I mean, I come from a DIY background, so I was always, that was the life, I toured in really bleak conditions when I started playing music, and stayed in punk houses, slept on the floor in really gross spaces with like cat feces strewn about the carpet. So yeah, I mean, once I got to do that for a living, I won the lottery, and I just couldn't say no to anything because I felt so lucky. So yeah, I think I've always known that that's a big part of the job, and that's why I wanted to do this in some ways when I started.
Speaking of DIY, this is the first album you recorded in an actual studio.
Yeah, it's Sound City.
Sick.
Yeah.
From your house to Sound City.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And then,
Scary?
It wasn't, it felt hard earned, I would say. I think after, this was my 4th record as Japanese Breakfast, and I had 2 full lengths in my old band. So after, over 10 years of recording, it felt time to really flex into a studio environment.
I would be nervous that it changes the way I create and my process and my energy, and you're not in your house, you don't know it. It's like
Totally.
I'd be so anxious just about every variable that's now out of my control.
I think I felt that way up until this record. I don't think I felt ready for it until this album, and then it felt I felt very actually safe having this kind of card in my back pocket or ace up my sleeve or whatever, because I'd never done it before, and I knew that there was going to be a leap in fidelity that I'd never had before, and I was at least going to have that, and that was going to be really new. And also Blake works there all the time and, was the sort of shepherd of this record.
What changes, though, that pushes you into it?
Pushes me
into the studio?
I think honestly, it was the 3 years of touring Jubilee and doing sessions where you could hear that difference in fidelity. I remember very specifically doing 30 vocal takes on, an SM7 at my house, comping it, going to a studio, recording on a Neumann through a fancy preamp and being like, oh, that's why you use that gear. Because if you A-B those 2 sounds, you can hear the difference. And I think after 3 years of being in and out of sessions like that and getting to record at places like Electric Lady, and it made me realize there's a reason why people record in studios. And there's something to be said and something really great about not being nervous about the studio fee and all of the time that goes into making a record, that you can explore every avenue when you're in a space that's $200 instead of, $2,000. But then I think that having that experience made me realize that leap in fidelity is kind of priceless.
Worth it.
Yeah.
You got to listen for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. The album's waiting for you. It's on Amazon Music. There's a link below. What are you thinking, Dan?
I think we got to talk about Jeff Bridges.
Oh, dude. How do you get on there?
He's friends with Blake. I wrote this song, Men in Bars. It's kind of my take on a Kenny Rogers song called Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, but sung from 2 perspectives. I just love a duet between a man and a woman. I feel like it's a format that we don't get to hear so much anymore. And I knew this was my first feature on the record, on any record I've ever made. And I knew I wanted this kind of low register man with character. And Blake and I argued back and forth for a really long time of who this person could be. And one of the last weeks of recording, he was like, what about Jeff Bridges? And he played me a song of his off his record, and I thought it was just beautiful, and he has a great voice. And it's like, if you think that you can get him to be involved, like, that's our guy. And he texted him, he video chatted us 20 minutes later. He was just so down for it, really down-to-earth guy and music lover. And was down to sing on the track.
What an amazing first feature.
I know.
Like, what?
Yeah, very unexpected. I
Totally
think he
out of
sounds so
pocket.
great on it. Yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
Who else is in the running?
Oh, I mean, we hadn't really reached out to anyone. We had just sort of thrown names around. Bill Callahan was actually the first person that I thought of. But I think we wanted someone just so unexpected. That was a big part of it.
Jeff Bridges is iconic and unexpected. So cool. Winter in LA is very cool too. Very Laurel Canyon era energy. It's good. Do you live here?
I do not.
I
live in New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always get severely depressed when I'm in LA. And so I wrote that song actually while I was living here for 6 weeks working on the record. And, I also I'm the kind of person that can't leave work behind. And I feel like I'm not making good work if I'm not suffering. And I remember my husband was trying to get me out of the house. He was like, you've just beat yourself up so much about this record, and let's just go out. Let's go to a restaurant. Let's go to a movie. And I just thought to myself, I wish you had a happier woman, one that could leave the house. And was like, oh, that's a song. And yeah, I don't know. I think originally it was kind of a song being frustrated with LA, the weather's too nice and the produce is too fresh and the people are too easygoing. And then I realized, maybe the problem is me. And there are all these really amazing artists like Neil Young and Joni Mitchell who've had these like great intellectual, fruitful, creative years in LA. And maybe instead of beating yourself up all the time or feeling like you have to be so rigorous, there's a new side to your creativity that could really benefit from just breathing and taking a walk and letting the sun in. And so, yeah, that's where that song came from.
Did it end up working out that way? Did you take a walk and let the sun in and feel any positive effects?
I'm not much of a walker, but I feel really good when something like that comes out. I think I can only feel joy in the immediate moments of making something. And that's why I'm always chasing. So I only felt good after writing that song. But I do think that song came out of taking a break, like going to see a movie or something.
By the way, just for clarity, Joni Mitchell and Neil Young were here when it was a very different LA.
Yeah.
Very different energy filled these streets.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been around when they were here. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's like real music. Like that is.
But there's a lot of great music coming out of LA. Right?
Yeah, I think.
I feel like most of my musician friends are.
No, they're all here. A lot of them are here, but I do think like more people are moving out of here than ever before.
Yeah, sure. It's been a tough year.
Yeah, people are dispersing.
Yeah.
I remember when people were just like flocking here like crazy, and now it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
I don't know. Neil Young's amazing. Joni Mitchell, incredible. Neil Young is, oh God. He's been on our show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was that?
He called me and asked to come on, and
He called you to ask to come on?
He has a flip phone. Yeah,
That's
he read
amazing.
about me in the New York Times.
That's incredible. How was it?
It was amazing.
What did you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, everything. It's like, I mean, he has a lot. I mean, it's Neil Young. He has a lot to talk about. But he's like written books. I read his books.
Oh, really? I haven't read.
Yeah, the books are really good. He's also an amazing dad. A lot of things that like people wouldn't really know about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, it's really cool. Highly like.
I'm going to see him this year at Glastonbury. I'm really looking forward. Our whole band is so pumped.
I'm trying to make the pilgrimage out. He's about to do a bunch of shows.
You should.
And he's also, I don't know, is it like, maybe we'll have to delete this out, but he's releasing more music. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh,
they
really?
announced it, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's new stuff coming.
I have to read his book and look after
Oh, just my only tidbit, like, that I'll share about Neil Young real quick is like one of the coolest things ever is like he used his money to like invent this thing where his son is wheelchair
I just
bound.
heard about this.
And it wasn't really well known. We should post the clip. It had to have gone viral somewhere because people wrote about it. But like, he wrote about his book many years ago, but he paid to get this patent so he and his son could do trains together.
I just heard this story.
And it's so I cry. He's like a very special guy.
Yeah.
Very special
I'll have to read that. That sounds incredible.
Worth it. Final thoughts? What are you thinking?
Well, speaking of books, did you have any expectations for Crying in H Mart when you put it out?
I hoped that it did well. I hoped that it would do well. But I definitely did not anticipate the reaction that it
Becoming
had.
a bestseller.
I hoped that maybe for 1 week we could squeeze into like position 14 or something. But I didn't know it would just live there for a while.
Without the success of that book, would you ever think about writing this next book that's coming? Or did the success of that book encourage you to like, hey, let's keep going with this?
I mean, I would like to think so, but it was certainly a really validating experience. And also it afforded me the advance to spend a year abroad and live there comfortably for a year just studying, which is an incredible privilege that I wouldn't have had if I didn't. I don't know if I would have been able to afford to do that for a year and just live as a student. So probably not. Yeah, probably not.
Is there any part of you that's disappointed that you haven't made it on The Amazing Race yet?
How do you know about that? Wait, do you know that I tried out for the... Wait, how do you know that?
Of course I know that. Nah. You're going to come on our show and think we're not going to find your audition for The Amazing Race?
That's so crazy. Yeah, my friend Lila and I tried out to be... We're like, My friend Lila and I are both very loud, half Asian girls that think of ourselves as being quite funny and charming. And so we decided to go to Atlantic City and try out to be a part of the Amazing Race. And of course, we got there in the night and we got really drunk. And
as you do at Atlantic City.
Yeah. And then like we ordered bottle service to the room, but it didn't come fast. I ordered bottle service and mozzarella sticks to the room.
What are you, the Godfather?
At like 2 a.m. And it took so long that we fell asleep, and I spent so much money on this bottle of vodka that we never even opened. And then the next morning we were just hungover and had to go try out for the Amazing Race. And I thought we were gonna have like a conversation with someone or whatever, but you're just in front of a camera and they're like, tell a funny story. And we were just like, and we were, needless to say, not chosen to be. We were just completely not charming, and it was a very humbling experience.
You sound like a victim of Atlantic City. That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great time. We watched some like dancers for a while.
That's really unhinged.
But yeah, that was. I mean, it would be pretty incredible to find that horrifying audition. I wonder if it lives somewhere. But it was a very humbling experience.
If you got asked now, would you go back?
Well, I don't know. I have fantasies of being on reality television, but I think it would probably be horrible experience. My goal is to like retire in Korea and become like a reality show commentator. I think that would be in my 40s or something, to not be on Singles Inferno or like not one of those dating shows, to be on the couch being like, I can't believe he said that, or like he's obviously so into her.
One of the boxes on the bottom of the screen that are all watching what's going on. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a dream life. I wish that for you.
That's what, yeah. Hopefully you'll see me there in the next 10 years.
That'd be a lottery win.
I know.
You should be.
That's my final form.
No, you should be perfecting the language just for that.
That is kind of in the back of my head, where I would like to be in 10. That's my 10-year game plan.
You'll work forever.
Yeah.
They got reality shows for quite literally centuries.
Yeah, yeah.
And Korean people are the best editors.
It's true.
They make the best content. Yeah, it's crazy.
Did you see the new cooking show?
What, a black and white show?
Yes.
I know about it because I know the guy's producing it.
Yeah.
I have to watch it.
Yeah, the quality
I hear it's great.
Is high.
It is, as most things that are
Korea,
exported out of Korea in all facets.
It's true.
But culture
Yeah.
is on another level.
It's hardworking folk.
It's really very special people. Thanks for your time today. You're very special as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you. You good?
Yep.
We've covered a lot here.
Thank you so much.
You're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for
You're
doing
really
this.
amazing, and so are you.
Real recognizes real. And I ask you to listen to Japanese Breakfast's brand new album, please, for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. It's waiting for you. Link below. It's all on Amazon Music. Thanks for hanging.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Japanese Breakfast, everybody.